Yo, welcome to my podcast, Come Inside of Me. I still cannot believe I got that URL, comeinsideofme.com. Really wild. I haven't started a website yet, but I'll get there. So, today I'm going to be giving advice. I asked strangers on the internet to send me some questions, and they did. And I want to say that I really genuinely do love giving people advice. And it's not because I think I know more than you do. I know more than you do. LOL. Um, no, what I actually genuinely believe is that when I give advice, it's not coming from me. It's not coming from inside of me. It's coming from inside of you. It's like I open up to connect to your higher self, and then your higher self comes inside of me and tells me what you need to hear from you. Like you come inside of me in order for me to come inside of you by just telling you what you already know. It's already inside of you. The come is inside of you as it is inside of me, but this is a conduit for come. I think I explained that really well. All right, so I'm gonna go and open up some of these messages that I received. I haven't read them yet because I felt like I needed to be fresh. I needed to be fresh to death. I didn't want to think about it beforehand because I thought that would pervert the channel. I also really do want y'all to leave me voice memos so I can hear your voice. So maybe I'll figure that out in the future. I'm still, trying to figure out logistics. Okay. One person says, I need advice on how to stay positive and feeling aligned amidst all the negativity and chaos of the world. I don't want to block it out because I care, but I tend to internalize too much. All right. This is a person that cares about language. I feel like they used language to indicate intelligence, which is interesting. So when we use language to indicate intelligence, I think present company included, I do that. I do believe there is a desire to set oneself apart from the status quo in the sense that you're trying to communicate, hey, I'm not an anti-intellectual. I am thinking I want to be intelligent. You're prioritizing intelligence. So this person, what I'm feeling from them is a lot of guilt. They're feeling guilt. And I'm going to suspect that this isn't just in this arena. They're not just feeling guilt about the world. They are feeling guilt about privilege or something in their lives that is extending into their deepest, most personal sense of self, because you wouldn't feel guilt about the world if you weren't already imprinted with this relationship to guilt. And I think the interesting thing around guilt and privilege, because ultimately what this person is talking about is privilege, because we are all privileged in the sense that we're living in the United States and not a war zone, right? I mean, those in the United States that are listening to this podcast, there is a privilege of being the empire builder versus, I'm receiving empire. So what I would want to ask this person is, what is your relationship to guilt, period, and your relationship to privilege? Because is it possible for you to recognize your own privilege with this intellectual lens that this person obviously has, but also more importantly, embody an understanding of privilege that comes from the deepest sense of extreme and radical gratitude? Like, for instance, I was in the shower the other day and just going through the motions of the shower, and I was in a bad mood, PMSy, and just I was like, ugh. And then suddenly I was like, what is my fucking problem? I'm in a shower. This is very warm water. This water is such a privilege to have access to warm water. And here I am just to take another shower, yeah. And it was humbling and it was guilt inducing and it was upsetting to recognize how spoiled I was being in the shower. And so what are we doing when we're feeling this extreme guilt about the world is we're acknowledging how privileged and how spoiled we are. And that guilt isn't going to motivate us to behave differently. Guilt is only going to like deepen the shame. And when you're feeling shame, you're not motivated to act. You're basically putting yourself in a position of being paralyzed, because shame is not a motivating emotion. Neither is guilt. So I guess the complexity is, how do we recognize the deep privilege of existence while simultaneously acknowledging the vast suffering of existence, and holding those two things at once? And it is gratitude at the smallest things. It's like every time you're like, I'm doing the dishes again. I mean, obviously, this is my own inner monologue. Again, with the water, I was like, I have this access to water, and the warm water actually feels great on my hands. And why am I being such a cunt about dishes? Like, it's actually a deep privilege to do the dishes. And there's so many instances where we're just like waiting for something to be over or rushing through it. And I know this is an annoying piece of advice because it's so desperately obvious. Like, well, have you tried enjoying the moment? It's like rude. But I think what I'm actually saying is that in every circumstance that you're in, there is a reframing that can be done, where you are looking at your current moment with extreme and radical gratitude. And that's not to claim that that's easy. That's to claim that that is a practice that you must be reminding yourself of maybe 70,000 times a day. The amount I have to remind myself to sit in gratitude is exponential from a mathematical perspective. And I think that anyone's like, well, I just sit in gratitude all the time. It's like, okay, God is blessed, but I don't know. Do you really? So I really appreciate this person's question, because I think that she is like deeply self-reflecting on a collective conversation that so many of us are having. Oh yeah, she said, I tend to internalize it too much. Well, what does that mean, too much? What is too much internalization within a face of a genocidal acts, and like everything that's going on in the Congo and the mass extinction of animals? Like, there is not enough internalization. I think the truth is that we're actually not internalizing it, because it is still a happening, right? So what I think she's referencing is like, she's feeling as if the burden is on her shoulders alone. And no, it's not on your shoulders alone, but you must internalize it. We can't run from the internalization of this knowledge that we have. And I don't know why we're the ones that are living in a society where we currently have access to just global chaos being permeated into our brains and eyeballs on a daily basis. But hey, that is the timeline that we're in. This is what we've chosen. And I think taking full responsibility that, all right, I'm here, I'm doing this. And the deep internalization, I think, it will come into direct action if we don't let that internalization be transformed into guilt. We have to instead compost it into like real genuine sacrifice and real genuine action. I mean, I'm sorry, y'all. We really have to hold ourselves more accountable. I remember just the other day, I was like, do I really want to clean out this peanut butter jar? And what's the point? Like, this plastic is just going to go into the trash anyway, even if I did wash it out. Well, that's a fucking fuckadoo, because here I am allowing myself to not participate in what needs to be happening when it's about dealing with the massive amount of trash that's being taken for granted constantly. And at the same time, I'm not wrong that the plastic is not going to get recycled anyway. And what a conundrum we're all in. What a fuckfest. So I don't know. I know we all want to feel better, but I'm sorry. I don't think the answer is feeling better. I think the answer is allowing moments of joy and letting yourself feel the ultimate despair. Those two dualities, they seem unavoidable at this here now moment. And I think it's about accepting it embracing the fact that the despair is what's going to lead us into action, you know? And I don't know. Staying positive, that was the other thing she said. I'm optimistic. And optimistic isn't the same as positive. And what I'm optimistic about is that more people than ever are talking about politics. More people than ever are questioning the status quo. More people than ever are wondering if the elites are eating mermaids. Because if you're not on that side of TikTok where people are questioning if elites eat mermaids, then you need to get online at 3 a.m. So I think there is a genuine optimism around people's curiosity that I have seen peak in the last 8 months. So I think we can be optimistic about that. Being positive, what is positive? I guess it's the opposite of negative, but adds to polarity. Positive, negative. Let's just exist in the spectrum of optimism versus pessimism. And pessimism, I think, is an excuse of self-abuse. Although sometimes I think we can all feel pessimistic, but if we can sit in optimism rather than positivity, I think that'll be more motivating. I guess my whole point is we ought to be motivated into action. And yeah, I understand you don't want to block it out. I don't want to block it out either, man. I really don't. Okay, next question. All right. Staying true to your alignment and your vision while manifesting it, even though on the outside or my reality doesn't look like it. And I feel so deeply, and it's been really magnetic. In moments while living with someone that doesn't match my vibration and keeping it and not caring. Podcasting is so fun and freeing. I have no idea what any of that meant. What did they mean by that? I'm not sure if English is this person's first language because that was not clear to me. But let's go what they said. I'm going to just go into in moments while living with someone that doesn't match my vibration and keeping it and not caring. Okay, when we think about partnerships and relationships, like let me just tap into what this person needs to hear about partnerships and relationships. Look, there is always going to be someone that's more emotionally mature within a relationship. That is what's going to happen. And the question is the person that's more emotionally mature probably has like that feeling of like, burden of like, I'm always like doing this for the partner. No. And I think what happens is then there becomes a hierarchy where you believe because you're more mature, you're more intelligent, or you're adding more value, or you're bringing more to the table. And I would suggest if you want to be with this person, that your emotional maturity is something that you're bringing to the relationship, but you have to also look at what they're bringing to the relationship that's bringing value. And we can't look at relationships as this like tit for tat. Well, I'm doing this, so you have to do exactly what I'm doing for you. Like, no, that's not how relationships work. We have different skill sets. We have different abilities. We have different capacities. And if your skill set and capacity is like, I'm a really high vibe person, I've really worked on my emotional maturity, that is your gift to bring to the relationship. And then I hope that person is also bringing you their gift. And I don't know what their gift is. Maybe it's they're incredibly technical and they know how to do plumbing. Or maybe their gift is they're an amazing chef. Or maybe their gift is that they fuck good. I don't know what their gift is. Only you know what their gift is. But I think when we get into dynamics with partnerships where we overvalue what we're bringing to the table and we undervalue what the other person is bringing into the table, that is going to lead to resentment. And when you resent your partner, you are not going to be attracted to them. And then resentment will just build upon resentment. And then the person that is being resented will resent you for resenting them. So it becomes a feedback loop of resentment. So I think that person needed to hear that. And also manifesting your reality when the evidence is on the contrary. My whole life is trying to manifest reality where the evidence is on the contrary. So I have grand visions that are completely, from an outsider's standpoint, probably incredibly unrealistic. Even for my own hawkeye view. I'd be like, wow, this is pretty unrealistic. My ambitions are banana pants. However, they are what I want. And so I continue to pursue them. And I think the confidence in the self and the tenacity to keep going with something, even though the evidence isn't making it easy for you, that is, it takes a particular humility to allow yourself to deal with the heartbreak of it disappointing you, because the amount I get disappointed is also iconic, like, oh wow, I get disappointed quite a bit. So I think to stay true to your alignment and your vision, part of it is holding on to it and maintaining the humility of being disappointed, but the other part is pivoting, and it is asking yourself, well, is there information that I'm receiving that I then have to redirect myself and reimagine my vision? Because if your vision is sometimes too set and you're too stubborn about how something has to be, that can also be problematic because you're not open to the flow and you're not open to the possibility of things working out slightly different than you had originally anticipated. So it's good to have a clear vision, but also to not be too controlling about that vision, because I don't know if you've ever worked on something and you've had what I would call, maybe I'm not the only one, like a happy accident where something bad happens, you make a mistake and you're like, oh no, I've made this huge mistake. But then you kind of figure out how to integrate the mistake and it becomes this really interesting artistic choice that you wouldn't have otherwise made. And then it's what's actually really unique about that piece of work. So I do think there has to be a certain amount of openness to shifting one's vision, because sometimes mistakes create such deep beauty that you could have never anticipated or figure out on your own if you were just too this is the way I'm going to do it. All right, next question. I'm learning to not seek approval or validation from external places. How do I make my own loving enough for self, or feel better than the external, or will it ever? Is this the facade of separation or deep mother wound or something? Hello. This is very real, okay? Let's think about what this person said, mother wound. I did not say that. This person did. So I believe that this person really needs to understand that their mother's voice is deeply embedded in their psyche. And that's something to ask yourself when you think about the concept of external validation, is whose voice is in your head that you're looking to approve of you. And I do think that as we become adults, it's really important to extricate the voices in our head that are not our own, so you would have most likely a mother or father or both, their voice of perceived judgment in your head. And then everything you're doing, you're filtering through your perception and your assumption of their voice, which may have been accurate when the voice was implanted into your mind, but it might not be anymore. You might be assuming that your parents or whatever that voice is more disapproving than it actually is. Because I know my grandmother, for instance, when she was alive, she was super Catholic, very, very Catholic. And so I thought I had to hide all these things from her in order for her to still love me. But retrospectively, she was very supportive of my brother's divorce. She was like, your brother will be so much happier once he is divorced. And there was all these I remember the piece of advice she once gave me was, all men want is to empty themselves inside of you. But I think she did support the fact that I was on birth control pills, because I don't think she wanted me to be a teen mother. So I think there was a lot of room for her to accept me, even though a lot of my actions were contrary to her values, because she really did love and care for me and understood we were separate people. Of course, that's a grandmother. And so I think she had more distance. I'm sure my father has a very different relationship to her voice in his head. Point being, I think there was more space than I understood for her to understand me in a deeper way. And I don't think I had to hide myself as much as I did retrospectively. So what I would like to ask this person is that, can you, first of all, can you take your mother's voice that's inside your head that you think is judging you and recognize that, hey, that's not actually her voice anymore. I mean, perhaps she might have a different perspective. And even if she doesn't, even if she's the same judgmental judgeroo that was implanted into your brain to begin with, her opinion of you does not define you. It does have an impact on your relationship. I'm not gonna lie. If your mother has like really specific values and is like, I never want you to be naked, and you're like, I want to do burlesque, and she's like, that's whorish, it is gonna affect the relationship if she won't open up her heart to have a different view or to try to understand your view. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means there's gonna be a consequence. And I think with a lot of things that we do, when we're seeking external validation and approval, you're going to get approval and you're going to get disapproval. Both of those things are going to happen. If you're putting yourself out there, I put myself out on the internet all the time. I've been doing so for years. I can't take the approval any more seriously than I take the disapproval, because if I'm too attached to the approval, if every comment that's like, I love you, you're great, which is incredibly nice. It's not like I don't like receiving that, but if I got too attached to that, then I would have to get equally attached to the, you're cunt, you're a piece of shit, I want to skull fuck you in your sleep. And I'm like, oh, okay. So if I can maintain a certain amount of distance from the positive and the negative and just recognize that like, oh, wow, people are reacting to me. And that is what I'm looking for, is to elicit connection and reaction. And I'm open to that connection and reaction being either positive or negative, then I am not dependent on someone's approval or disapproval. I'm just participating in an open-ended conversation and not asking, I'm not asking for them to define what it is I'm doing. And is that easy? No, of course that's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. It would be like, everyone would be doing it. You know, there's a reason why putting yourself out there is difficult. And there's a reason why people don't do it, because they're afraid. So how do you deal with the fear? You should do something little that you're afraid of all the time. You know, like, that's why doing something like, oh, I jumped off this thing that was high into the water, or I took a little risk. Like, take little risks in things that have really low stakes, and that'll build your tolerance for taking risks. But learning not to seek approval, I really do think it has to do with you recognizing that your mother's opinion of you does not define you, even though it would be incredibly painful if she rejects you. And that is real. But also, to be honest, when you are rejected by someone, you are also free, because then you don't have to define yourself or confine yourself anymore in the fear of being rejected by them, because it like happened. So it's almost like that book, The Alchemist, you know, the fear is worse than fear itself. You fearing the rejection is worse than the actual rejection. So I think you're doing the right thing by thinking about it. But just don't get it twisted, and don't think that like, oh, everyone's having such an easy time with this. It's just me. No. Truly, it's everyone. All right. Oh, here we got another mother thing. How do I move a mother wound through that I just realized I still have at 57? Goddess bless. Okay, so this is the thing about the mother, is that we objectify the role of mother. We say, mother, my mommy, she is to fulfill this role of mothering. And we tend to forget her humanity. And I think the best way to really understand one's mother is to deeply understand your grandparents, is to deeply understand her conditioning, is to deeply understand her programming, to really get into the ins and outs of how she was raised, because it's only through that that you're going to understand her traumas, her triggers, her limitations, her specific pain body, you know, because I think the intention of most mothers is to be a good mother, is to be loving. Like, they went through the process. They they chose to have you. And when they're failing at mothering, that is such a deep feeling of failure because you feel as if you're failing as a person. And I think a lot of people reject feedback from their children because they don't want to look at the potential failure of how they didn't mother in the best way possible, because it's such a failure of massive identity. So it's like the more you humanize your mother, the more you can recognize that her pain body that caused you pain is coming from a place of deep insecurity and deep, deep, deep identity fear, you know? And I think that if you can't talk to her about it, the best way to heal these wounds is the humanizing of her. And that doesn't mean, oh, I forgive her and it's all great and now I have no boundaries and yada yada. No, it doesn't mean that at all. But it means that you take the time to understand the why. You take the time to understand the how. And you recognize that even though this person really, really, really hurt you and may continue to hurt you, there was a context of that pain. And the more you understand the context, I think it takes her out of the role of mother, and it takes the objectification out of your roles together as I am daughter, she is mother, I am child, she is parent. Because that objectification that we do to each other within the family unit is also dehumanizing, because you're a role rather than a person. But I also think that like we have to accept that these wounds, these parental wounds that we have, are so deep within our programming, are so deep within our sense of selves that, yeah, of course they're going to be coming up. They're going to be coming up at 57, 77, 87, 97. You know, we're going to be dying and like thinking of our mommies in a certain sense and like still wanting that like deep, unconditional, universal love that society has told us a mother can give. But a mother is a human. A mother is not source. A mother is not, you know, supernatural. So what that unconditional love that we're looking for is really, it is a connection to source and to like spirit beyond humanity. And so to put it on women alone and the mother alone, it's just so much pressure, you know? No one's going to be able to fulfill that for you perfectly. Okay. Let's try one more. Oh, I think we'll do two more. Advice on how you stay so fabulously insane/sane in a crazy insane world. Meaning how to find the strength to show up on here, to make jokes, to dance. I think you do it the best on the net because there is no gaslighting. Life is good. It's just making the bad fun. Oh, this was a kind message. I'm not going to get too attached. I'm going to take my own advice, but I do like that. So listen, I think the thing about putting yourself out there and trying to find the joke in existence is that existence genuinely is absurd. There is a cosmic joke that's happening. And if you were to really look at it from a philosophical perspective, life is hilarious. However, that does not negate the deep, deep suffering and pain. And I always think of, I was at this Buddhist retreat and I was like looking at the Buddha and he was smiling. And I remember I was like really annoyed. I'm like, what the fuck is he smiling at? Like, I was like, how can you be smiling? Like everything's fucked. And then I realized, oh, the Buddha is smiling not because he's denying suffering. He's smiling because he understands how much suffering there is. And to bring a smile to the world has a contagious, positive impact. And I think that that is what we can kind of do for each other. Is it's not about denying suffering. It's not about, you make a joke of something not because it is a joke. Like there's nothing funny about fascism, but you can bring joy when talking about fascism because you have to talk about fascism. Sorry. and you bring joy because the vibration of joy is what the world needs. And you know what? You don't always sit in the vibration of joy. I don't always sit in the vibration of joy. Absolutely not. But when you are sitting in the vibration of joy, you bring it because that is valuable. That brings people up. Like the amount of times that you can just be in a good mood and that good mood can be contagious to someone. I mean, that's a vibe, right? All right. Okay. All right, we're gonna do two more. I know I said two more last time, but these are good ones. I am stuck in a horrible decades-long cycle of being drawn to unavailable men, likely connected to CPTSD and neglect. Anything around that? The importance of relationships and organizing. How to handle rupture, make repair. All right, Crystal. I'm gonna tell you this, and I mean this with all the love in my heart. You are unavailable. And you are attracting unavailable men because you are actually unavailable. And so you're creating a scenario for yourself where you don't have to face the fact that you're unavailable because you can put all your attention onto the unavailable man. And I also think that when we are attracted to unavailable people, what we're doing is we're using them as a mechanism to distract ourselves from our own internal suffering and our own work that we have to do. So we use that person, the unavailable person, to provoke feelings of anxiousness. And then we get consumed by the feeling of anxiousness. But that anxious feeling, when you feel that towards a partner, a potential partner, for whatever reason, ignites lust. Because you don't have that person. And when you don't fully have a person, there is this like, I don't understand what the biology is behind this, but I think it's like more lusty. I think a lot of people are really turned on by this because it's like not guaranteed. And that insecurity just like puts a little like what a graspiness to it. And lust has a graspy energy. So I think the gift of you being in these dynamics where you have these unavailable people is that you have the gift of lust, and lust is fun, but it's very distracting. And when you're in a state of being lusty or pining over someone, or like, what does this person think? That's the other thing that I think an unavailable person does, is it occupies your mind on such a deep level that you're always thinking about what they're thinking about. You're always wondering what they think about you rather than dealing with you, rather than doing whatever art you should be doing, rather than being the best friend you could possibly be to others, rather than focusing on whatever family healing you have to do. That person is serving as like a bone for your brain to chew on constantly. And that level of distraction is why you're attracted to it. So I think if you want to get out of this cycle, it's admitting that you are unavailable to security at this here now moment, and that if you actually wanted to be in a secure relationship, you can do that. But you have to be turned on by security. You have to get wet for that, for someone being there for you completely and not having to question them. And that means that your brain is going to be emptied from that distraction, and it's going to feel very chaotic and scary, because then your brain is going to be full with all the things that you were avoiding. So I think that's what's going on with you. I'd actually love to know what you think about that. So message me about that. Okay. Last one. I'm messaging you for the advice on your new podcast. I love all your gifts that you bring to the world and share on socials. Thank y'all. I like that. That was really sweet. My question: how do I, a person who's always done everything holistically and with alignment to Mother Nature, surrender to having a kidney transplant that I or my body or the medical industrial complex is telling me I need to survive? I know surrender is the key word here, but I'm struggling so hard. P.S. I'm already on dialysis and I'm waiting for the surgery, but I can't wrap my psyche around it. Thank you for the time to read this. I hope your day is wonderful. And then all of these beautiful rainbow hearts. Brandy is a really good person. Okay, I can just like tell by the vibe of this message. I kind of want to cry And I'm not a crier. Like, I can feel like tears behind my eyes. So I think, Brandy, for you specifically, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what your relationship, when I think of like the kidneys and I think of this like lower back, right? Because your kidneys are in your lower back. I think it's so much about support. And she seems like a really supportive person who really needs support on a deep, deep, deep cellular level, right? And so what's happened, I think, with this like conflict of the medical industrial complex and wanting everything to happen with nature, is I think the thing is around a belief system, right? So she has this belief system that like, I want to heal holistically. And then her belief system is being challenged by this medical intervention. But I want to remind her that her healing will always be holistic. There is no non-holistic healing because her body has to receive the transplant. Her body has to do the magical, natural process of healing. A doctor, even, it's like the doctor doing the surgery, the doctor intervening. That intervention isn't the healing. It's the body that is doing the healing. It is the body. And so when medical intervention happens, it's still the magic of your body and Mother Nature and all of those things that she values. And I think what she's referencing is real. The medical industrial complex is a profit-driven business. There are all sorts of things that are interfering in a way where maybe taking a more like quote unquote natural method would be just as beneficial, like when it comes to certain medications, et cetera, et cetera. But everything is still derived from nature. All of these pharmaceuticals are derived from nature. Yes, there's like oils and synthetics and other things in it, but the core essence of all medicine is natural. It is coming from the earth. And so I think that what I want for Brandy is just like recognizing that things got too far, like things went really far with whatever's going on with her health. I don't think she's at this point of just like I'm going to experiment with Reiki, like it's far down a path, and she has to trust that path is her path. It's like you would never shame a mother who like really wanted to have a quote unquote natural birth with like no intervention, and then a C-section happens. Like, Brandy, would you ever be like, what a failure? What an idiot mother? It's like, no, like there is a dichotomy that exists that like I can criticize a medical industrial complex on blue in the face, but that doesn't mean that there isn't value in modern medicine. And I think like what she wants to still apply is the more metaphysical lessons of whatever her health thing is. And to me, that metaphysical journey for her is around like deep, deep, deep support. I keep getting like those kidneys, that lower back. And I think that's what we can all wish for Brandy, is for her to just accept that her path, she has so much kindness, and that like her path brought her here, and there's going to be some wisdom in it that we can't anticipate, we can't understand. I mean, y'all know me, I have so many questions about this stuff. And okay, so my daughter, this is what Brandy needs to hear as well. My daughter had like this eye issue when she was younger, and they wanted to do surgery, and I was like very reticent about this surgery. I like really like wasn't fully on board, but I thought like, okay, let's do it. And I believe that because I had all these like reservations, the first surgery did not go well. They like crossed her eye, they messed up. And then for an entire year, I was like trying to fix it holistically, and then I had to bring her back to get another surgery. And at that point, I was like, well, I think the only medicine for this surgery is surgery. And I was like much more confident in the process, and it did go a lot better. So I really want Brandy to be fully on board with what she's doing. I think that is the thing that we have to recognize about our health choices, is that we have to really believe. we have to really be on board. So if this is what her path has taken her towards, like she just has to trust it. Whenever you're on a really drastic path of health, whatever that is, just like this is a deep test of belief, and you have to just like tap into that life force, tap into your will to live, tap into that desire that this is going to be healing, because it is that mental examination of your own belief system that's going to be a main part of the healing. So I really want that for Brandy. Okay, we did it. Tell me if that was valuable to you. So send me your questions. You can email them to me. Maybe like email is the best, but you can also DM me on the gram. But email me at tonynajcomedy@gmail.com. Oh, I also started a Come Inside of Me podcast at gmail.com. Why don't you do it there? That's probably easier. But you can also email me at the other one. Who cares? Emails are oppressive. I do think emails are white supremacy. So email me at either, and you can also like send a voice memo. I think a voice memo would be kind of cool, but I'd have to like figure out how to play it. So, but I think it'd be interesting to hear your voices, but like don't do it for more than a minute, because, let's figure it out. But email me, maybe write it. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows anything about anything anymore? But I hope you got some value from this, and I'll see you soon. Bye.